Hey friends, all right, so we have made a console app.
Yep.
We have explored the documentation. We've installed the .NET Core SDK and Visual Studio Code.
Yes.
All right, next let's make a web application.
Exactly.
All right, so if we look at my screen here, we have the folder that I have my console app.
And so we have to create a brand new folder.
Right, I just want to point out that all that did was a write line and it output it to the console. Not particularly impressive. There's no web browser here. There's just hello, Scott.
Yeah, we need to, like when you're learning about a web framework, you want to do something on the web.
Absolutely.
So let's
I just want to juxtapose the difference between the two. So let's take a look at that, all right?
Yeah.
So what do you want me to do?
So can I teach you a new trick?
Let's do it.
That you can create your web application and a directory at the same time?
Are you sure?
I can
Because
show
I
you.
like making directories.
I know, but like try something new. Try something new.
All right.
Okay.
I'll try it.
So .NET New, web, -O.
-O.
Yeah. And let's call it my web app. So in the previous video, we looked at the different .NET templates that are available. Web is just one of the templates. So we looked at console, and now we're looking at web, just for people who might be tuning in now.
Okay.
So hit enter.
So it says the template core empty being created successfully, and it put it in a folder called my web app. So I like to go and make the directory, then go into the directory, and you're saying I can go -O, it'll make the folder and name the thing all at the same time.
At the same time. And if you think about it, if somebody's following this outside of Windows, the way they create a directory might be different.
That is a valid point. You're right, because I said MD, and they might say makedir,
Yeah.
and that's a good point. All right, and when I did that, just as you said, we did a .NET New Web,
Yeah.
which is this one. This is an empty one. There's different web options that we'll explore later, but right now we made the simplest possible
Exactly.
web
Just like
application.
the step just above a console line, just
Okay.
right above it.
So we can go into, let's go into the My Web App, and I see a CS proj, which makes
Yeah.
sense. I see a program.cs, which I had before.
But there's something different.
I see a startup CS and a www root. Now we could poke around here at the command line, but you showed me that VS Code is better.
It's pretty good.
It is better. So let's go into there. Now this is interesting, by the way. I typed code dot. It opened up my web application. It's worth pointing out that if you notice in the background there, it also opened my previous windows. VS Code likes to put things back the way it was.
Okay.
Right, so it's restoring my session. I'm going to go ahead and close the console app from earlier, and we'll just say, there's that warning again. Required assets to build. It's totally okay to say yes because we want to be able to debug our web application. All right.
So I noticed that you have a couple of things down there. Those are additional.
Yeah, that's a great point. So down here, I've got some extensions. These are like a little accordion extensions if I want to play with Docker, or if I'm going to be using Git. So GitLens and Docker are extensions. If I click over here on the left, you can see my installed extensions and recommended extensions. And I could go and search for extensions here as
Okay.
opposed to using the web.
All right.
Okay, so I was just moving them out of the way.
All right, because I just noticed something different, so I was asking questions for the people at home.
Definitely useful. So let's just move that out of the way. Here we go. So program.cs, this is a little bit bigger
Yep.
than it was before.
Because it's bringing in a bunch of stuff that, if we look at the previous one, where we pretty much only had using systems and maybe I/O.
Actually, that's a good point. Let's open up the CS proj.
Yeah.
If you recall, earlier, our SDK was Microsoft.net.SDK.
Yeah.
Here it is .web. This is a web application. This is new, indicating that there's a folder called www root that we'll talk about in a little bit. And we have our first package reference, ASP.NET Core, specifically .all.
So literally everything.
Right. Now, it could, in fact, be listed one item at a time. ASP.NET's broken up into lots of different pieces. So it's kind of a cafeteria plan.
Okay.
This is a package of packages. So rather than having a list of dozens of different packages and having to pick ones I want, ones I don't want, this makes it much, much simpler. It just gives me everything by default. So for learning, it's easier. For getting started, it's easier. If you're familiar with ASP.NET, it's easier
Yeah.
because everything you expect is there.
And it's also, one thing I've also noticed is it is one version now.
It is nice and simple. You just say, I want 2.0, and it brings in everything that hangs off of it.
Off to, okay.
It's I call it a meta package or a package of packages.
I like that term, packages of packages.
Yeah, nice and simple. So if we go into program.cs, you saw before we had using system.
Yep.
And when we say using system, that was what allowed us to type console.writeline, because system.console.writeline. But here, this is a web application, and we have other stuff. We brought in some threading and some I/O stuff, but this is the ASP.NET stuff that's added. What's worth pointing out, though, is our main here is different than our console main. Before, we had a console.writeline, and that was it.
Yep.
And actually, you know, this is totally off script, which implies, of course, that we have a script, right? I wonder if I could do this. Okay, I just have a main, and I've commented out all the web stuff.
So what would happen?
Let's find out. I wonder if it'll work. Remember, I'm going to type Control tilde, or tilde?
I think it's tilde. And I think if you say tilde, you might have an accent of some sort.
I think it would be an accent that is completely and totally incorrect.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so it actually switched it over to a console application.
Right. Well, it didn't really switch it over because it always was a console application. The
yes.
idea being that they're the same thing, right? A .NET application has a main,
Yeah.
a main entry point, and then it does some stuff. And I just wanted to kind of juxtapose that it can do some console-y stuff, or it can do some webby stuff.
So let's do some webby stuff. Like
All right.
what would it look like out of the box?
Yeah, well, that's a good point. So let's go back. .NET Run this time, having changed it to say build web host. And it's going to run and build. And it says a couple of things. It's running in production. It's listening on localhost 5000. So we have started a little web server.
Okay.
Now it says listening on localhost 5000. Let's open up browser. And let's localhost 5000 it.
Couldn't you also just click on the link within the terminal?
Yeah, that is,
Okay.
that is a good point. I guess I could. Or not.
Or not. Okay.
I don't know. Yes,
It should.
it should work.
So that's Hello World.
That's Hello World, exactly.
So where is that Hello World coming from? Where is
Where is that text?
there's the text itself? So
Yeah, let's find out. So let's follow it through. So build web host passes these arguments in and says .run. What does build web host do? That's right here.
yeah.
Looks like it creates a default web builder, and then it says use startup.
And
And
then
you can see here that the startup text here is in blue. That means it's a keyword basically. This here, this word startup, is telling it use this class. This class's name is not magic. If I changed it to foo,
it would not.
well, let's find out. Let's go ahead and change it to foo. Hit .NET Run. And see what happens. The type or name startup could not be found. Okay? But what if I change this to foo?
There we go.
Pause. Runs just fine. The point there being that the name startup isn't magic.
It isn't magic. It does
Right.
not have to be startup.
No. What it's saying is that, again, if we look at the docs, and this is what's nice with Visual Studio Code, it says specify the startup type to be used by the web host. So it's just saying go and use this class. And this class here that we called startup or foo or whatever has to just be shaped a certain way. It has to look a
Okay.
certain way.
So you could call it Beyonce. You could call it anything. You could. Yeah. There has to be a Beyonce.
I am afraid I should probably have a accent aigu, but we'll just have Beyonce without an accent. and it should work just fine. Beyonce should be a keyword,
It
a
should
reserved,
be.
a reserved
It should be.
word,
It
but it's
should.
not, sadly. So this is an important point, though. It's saying use this startup type, and that startup type has to have certain methods. So Beyonce, in this case, has to have a method called configure services and one called configure.
Okay.
And that's the requirements for Beyonce in this context, for the startup class. So what's going on in these?
And we have the nice little instructions at the top, which I've always appreciated.
Yeah, I like it when templates include a little bit of
Yeah.
instructions, a little bit of comments. So this method gets called by the runtime, and it adds services to a collection called the service collection. And services are just stuff you might want to use later in your app.
So it could be things like authentication, so using a service like Facebook or Google, like which we'll look at later dates, but
So if I just
Yeah,
say
there it
services
is.
dot, you've got add authentication, add caching, add identity, add logging, add memory, add whatever. And even things that don't appear, like you pointed out, like maybe Facebook authentication
Yeah.
or different kinds of, those are all other third-party things that could be added on as well. So those services get configured here, get added to this collection.
Yep.
And it's a little confusing because you've got configure services.
then you have configure.
And then
Like that is
configure.
something that confused me when
Yeah.
I first started.
It is confusing. This is the get everything ready, load up the collection of stuff I want to play with,
Yep.
and then configure them, set them up.
Up.
Like you could have maybe they could have named it like add services, or do the stuff with the services,
Okay.
and then configure them. But
Yeah, okay.
the point is that one is prep your environment and then do specific things to set your environment up. Like in this case, if we're doing development, not production, then when you get an exception, you'd like a nice friendly page.
Okay. Another page of horror.
Yes, not the scary page. This here is the app run. This is the default because you said we wanted to do empty. And you asked where Hello World was.
And there it is.
There it is. So we've changed that text. And .NET Run. It should still run. Now if I come back over here, notice it still says Hello World.
Yeah.
That's because we haven't hit refresh. And there it is.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
You like that?
Yeah.
Excellent.
I think the Beehive would be happy.
They would be. All right. Cool.
This is cool. One of the things that when you are working, so we've seen Hello World or like Hello Beehive in honor of Beyonce, but as a person who's building their web page for the very first time, you want to see a page. Like you actually want to see something that's a little bit more than just
A string.
a string.
Right.
So
and
if
certainly
you-
having a string, like doing all of your work inside of a response.write is going to break down pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Right. So in the next section, we're going to go and add some pages and take this, and we're going to start from empty though.
Yeah.
We're not going to cheat. We're going to build on top of empty. So we've seen a console app. We've seen an app that does a single string. Next section, we'll do pages.
Yes, we will.